obviously wasn't planning on becoming a reaction channel for a couple months now. I wasn't planning on starting until the second episode of Amazing Digital Circus because I made a theory on that. But look, I'm doing the reaction to these not because it's going to become a popular thing to do, not to capitalize on the fact that MatPat is leaving YouTube. Well, partially because of that, but I don't make a lot of money. Heck, my YouTube channel doesn't make any money. Um, no, I'm doing this because MatPat is easily my favorite YouTuber, and I feel like if I'm going to be a reaction channel, where better to start than with the final theories of my favorite YouTuber? So, I have actually not watched this. We're starting with film theory, the tragedy of the man in the suit Godzilla analog. Let's react to this, and I haven't watched it yet. I will be pausing like reactors do every now and again because I don't want to outright copy it. In addition, because I don't have the proper reaction set up and won't for a couple of months. You're just going to hear the audio, so I would obviously advise going to watch the main theory first because I will be stopping quite a lot. And I know that always annoys me when I watch people watch these series like Nux Taxu or Taxi, another YouTuber, like popular anime YouTuber. But let's get started.
Interview September 15th, 1958.
I hope you can hear that.
Subject 1, Matthew Patrick. Subject, Godzilla, whatever the hell that is. So tell me, Mr. Patrick, what exactly did you see?
I don't understand. It wasn't a person. It wasn't human. Not anymore.
How?
Funny opening as always. He's already got me laughing, and we're only 30 seconds in.
It's just a man in it.
No, it's something else now. It mutated. It's coming for us.
That's the theory. Really? You did a jump scare. He's too much into the FNAF. He did a jump scare with Godzilla. He has Japanese text on there that says film theory. But then he put up the English translation as well.
Listen, Toho's notoriously protective of that roar. It's the best that we're gonna do, all right? So we're all familiar with
That's true. They really are.
Godzilla, right? King of the Monster has been a mainstay in movie theaters for the past 7 decades. He's appeared in nearly 40 films, single-handedly pioneered the whole kaiju genre. And of course, with that amount of history, you're gonna have a ton of different interpretations of the.
My first interpretation of Godzilla, the 1998, I think it was 1998. It was the Matthew Broderick film. Yeah.
Character, from the big budget American movies where he fights King Kong in the Monsterverse to true low budget horror masterpieces like this year's Godzilla -1. But today, I want to.
Cinematic Critic did not see Godzilla -1. Yeah.
Get a completely different take on the character. One that's available right here.
So if you're on the Cinematic Critic channel, because I did go back to YouTube and you don't see a -1 review, I didn't see it.
Right now on good old YouTube.
I'll get info on it from him, though.
Horror series known simply as The Man in the Suit. You're hearing that incorrectly. It's an analog horror series about Godzilla, or at least the human inside of Godzilla.
I did actually know that the original Godzilla was a man in the suit. I found that out as like a teenager that the first Godzilla film was. I mean, it makes sense. A man in the suit. Analog. I did not know it had an analog horror series. Guess that explains the title.
Tell you loyal theorists, the story that tells is simultaneously scary, tragic, and heartbreaking. In an overcrowded genre full of cheap thrills, Man in the Suit's covering some massive topics with devastating themes, which is only made more impressive once you realize that the channel's creator unknowingly is just doing this all on their phone. Also, and this is just a side note here, it recently came to my attention that Unknowingly was getting harassed by a small subset of the Godzilla fan community for the series and thinking about ending the entire thing. To which I say, first off, Unknowingly, your work is great. The story that
Harassment. I went over that. I'm just gonna go watch my response to MatPat leaving YouTube in a couple of weeks. That harassment is exactly what we don't want. Heck, it's what I don't want.
telling, it's mature, it's thoughtful.
And yes, I am going to be bringing up MatPat leaving several times.
A small group of whiny, butthurt man children diminish the great work that you're doing. Stop those butthurt man children. If you are one of those people who harass someone's fan creation because the visuals are bad or the story isn't what you like, guess what? You are a baby and you need to go change your diaper. Well, man, baby.
Something I didn't mention in my reaction to him leaving YouTube is that he did say he has his own series that he's going to do, so that doubly applies. I'm definitely going to be reacting to his series, yeah. Because he said it's going to have, like, we're going to have to theorize on that. I started theorizing on Major Digital Circus. I'll be theorizing on that for sure.
Back to your crib. Valid constructive criticism, yeah, that's one thing. That is great. It is valuable to creators across the board. But sending death threats to a kid making a fan series on his phone because in your eyes it disrespects your rubber suit lizard monster, guess what? You're the real monster. Oh boy, I been a little bit harder than I expected on that one, but
Honestly, I think the reason you went a little harder was because you knew that literally hours ago you were recording your goodbye video, so I'll gonna go easy on you definitely for saying that.
I had to get it off my chest. You see, in case you missed it, I made an announcement over on Game Theory that these next 10 weeks of episodes will actually be my final 10 weeks of hosting.
Oh, he brought it up. Yep. He brought up the video, so people will go watch that, hopefully. And hopefully they won't be too mad.
These channels. Really cool products in the background, including a lo-fi related ARG that I'm just really hyped about. But it's not
That I'm going to be reacting to for sure.
me recording these scripts every single week. I talk about it in a lot more detail over there, in case you're curious as to what's coming next. But the long and short of it is that my time as the film theorist is coming to a close. And so, you know what? I'm just going to tell it like it is. And Toxic fans, you suck. You have ruined so many series for so many people. You are the worst. Go home. Let people enjoy what they want without you trying to gatekeep it. And everyone else out there, don't feed the trolls. Ignore them. They'll go away to their lonely little homes. Whew, got that one pent up for a while. Anyway, the man in the suit.
You could finally say it.
Days of the Godzilla franchise, when all special effects had to be done.
So now the theory
Simulate
starts.
A giant lizard terrorizing Tokyo. The filmmakers had a real stuntman put on a big rubber suit.
I'll turn the camera around every now and again to. Does YouTube? Yeah, YouTube lets me do that. He's showing an image of. And again, I'm not in my normal setup. I do have my computer with me, but whatever. Hold on, there we go. Yeah, so there's the man in the suit. I'll turn the camera around every now and again, but as you can see, I always complain about people pausing the video so much. But I don't want to get copyrighted, and I definitely want to make this a fair use reaction, especially with MatPat leaving, you know. I don't want people to think I'm doing this just for the money, and just for the views.
Stop through miniature models.
I really am doing this because I love MatPat's theories, and I want his videos to be the first thing I react to.
They had no eye holes for the actors to see out of. They weighed over 220 pounds. Internally, they heated up to extreme temperatures, and they were
That
so
I knew.
difficult to breathe in that
I knew about them heating up to extreme temperatures. And back then, I interviewed a mascot once for a movie that I haven't given up on completely, but I've stepped back from. I went over that in detail in my about how I step back from things in my own reaction. But point is, in that I did find out that these days they have fans in those suits and they still get hot. Imagine back then.
Crew often had to attach a tube to get the actor air. The tube had to be removed when they were actually filming the darn thing. There was even one incident where an actor almost drowned when his breathing tube fell out as he was being
I had actually heard about that.
freezing water. That right there, it already sounds like a terrifying experience. But the man in the suit takes things a step further, reimagining that claustrophobic experience as one that never ends, as the suit completely consumes the person inside, turning them into a mutant monster.
I'll show this image. Again, go watch this without the interruptions and so that you can see all the images. I think I should probably actually play that. I'll go back 10 seconds.
So the man in the suit takes things a step further, reimagining that claustrophobic experience as one that never ends, as the suit completely consumes the person inside, turning them into a mutant monster themselves. But underneath all of this monster business is actually a surprisingly heartfelt story about pain, grief, and overcoming cycles of violence brought about by one of the worst tragedies in human history. Yeah, this is one of those series, friends. So charge up that atomic breath, loyal theorists, as we begin to unzip the secrets of the man in the suit. Now, before we actually hop into the discussion, I did want to acknowledge up front the series includes fictionalized versions of real people who actually existed. This includes the...
Yeah, sorry, I don't have a setup yet, as I said, for two things, and I'm not going to be pointing the camera at the thing the whole time, because this is a reaction video. I hit mute.
Just anonymous stunt people. However, the man in the suit is also clearly set in an alternate universe, dealing with events that never actually happened, even if they are happening to real people. I just wanted to clarify that because when you're dealing with these sorts of online analog horror series or ARGs based on dramatized versions of real events, it's best to clearly separate the real fact from the fiction. So in classic analog horror fashion, the actual plot of the man in the suit isn't exactly the easiest thing to follow. Everything's...
Of course it's not. So now we're getting into the plot. What is the plot of this analog series? There's analog horror series about the man in the suit. I literally don't know because we're 5 minutes into a 15-minute.
To us through VHS tapes uploaded by an anonymous American.
Yeah, we're 5 minutes into an 18-minute video.
Who worked in some of the original Godzilla movies back in the day, and it was far more disturbing than you might think. The original actor hired to get in the Godzilla suit became obsessed with it, staying in costume the entire time that he was on set during breaks, even taking it home after work despite being told not to. The producer on the film says that it's almost like the suit was talking to the actor. Eventually, the actor started calling himself Goji, a nickname borrowed from Gojira, the Japanese name for Godzilla. Now, you might...
I have heard of method actors before, but that is insane.
Chalk all this up as an actor taking this role very seriously. I mean, this guy could very well be the Jared Leto of kaiju films. But quickly, things start to escalate, taking a turn for the worse. Goji's breathing becomes strange. He stops moving entirely for minutes on end.
This is the series. I think they're only talking about the series now. But I'll treat it as if that was real and say that's more than a method actor.
Quake the crew's best efforts to keep him on track. Eventually, they decide to take a look inside the suit to check on Goji, but what they found inside was no longer human. Goji's flesh and bones had grown into the suit, flesh filling all the empty space.
Somehow his body deformed to the point he was filling the inside of the suit. That's the text that popped up on screen.
His organs rearranged, and he's lost his vocal cords. Though you can still see out of the suit's eye sockets with bloodshot eyes. The suit has become his new skin, his new body. The man and the suit have become one. Of course, instead of doing everything they can to help this obviously suffering man that they had literally transformed into a monster, production company Toho just decides to keep this turn of events secret from the public, partly out of fear of being...
Of course they do. That's always how these theories go. Or I should say, that's always how these horror things go. And MatPat always has to say that line. I saw that coming, but hey, if it ain't broke,
Dude, but mostly because Godzilla was just making them a whole lot of money. They had merch to sell and movies to make, baby, so the show had to go on. Now, hey, they had themselves an actor fully dedicated to the parts. However, as the years roll on, it becomes clear that Toho has no real control over the creature. During the filming of the sequel, while shooting a scene between Godzilla and a new monster called Anguirus, Goji ends up attacking his co-star, biting into his suit, causing the other actor to bleed. The stunt performer inside screams out in pain. When the crew opens up the Anguirus suit, they find that it too has been transformed into a monster, just like Goji. Toho decides to cover up this incident too, and attempt to tame Goji so they can continue making Godzilla films. It doesn't work. They even try removing the man from the suit with power tools. Still nothing. One time, the monster even manages to escape the studio. Still, nothing is enough. While filming the 1962 film King Kong vs. Godzilla, Goji gets enraged by the use of an American character like King Kong, drowning the actor in the Kong costume during one of their fight scenes. In an attempt to keep Goji from biting other stuntmen, the studio creates a puppet for their next monster, Mothra. But they don't consider that Goji may just bite anyone in any sort of prosthetic. A woman inside a prosthesis for one of Mothra's larvae is bitten, just like Goji and Anguirus before her.
I've never watched Godzilla vs. Mothra, only Godzilla vs. Kong.
Also becomes one with the suit. Eventually, the situation gets so dire that the
These must be clips from the actual show. The spy has passed by a room where a Toho executive and a government figure were talking.
The government of Japan gets involved, intent on covering it all up and studying these mutations more closely. Radioactive material starts growing out of Goji's blood, with some claiming to see.
Fourthly, someone at the scene of the puddle says they could have seen an eyeball in the foaming puddle. They weren't too sure to believe their claims, thinking that it could have been a hoax.
Eyes within that material. Despite all of this, Toho continues on, intent on making more movies. And when the anonymous cameraman sees the concept art for King Ghidorah, the next monster Godzilla is going to fight, he decides to step in and try to stop it.
I can't let this happen, not for a third time.
Story beats for the man in the suit, that's more or less it so far. Unknowingly, I said that the series isn't completed yet, so there is more to come, but I think that there's more than enough here for us to dig into and explain what exactly the series is trying to say.
Here comes the theory. We're about halfway through the video. Here comes the theory.
First, what exactly is making Goji do all of this? What's
And it is important for everything to be set up.
transformed him from an actor?
Well, my video is about to be as long as the theory is. Again, fair use.
In a costume into a beast. Well, according to one expert character in the series, she believes that this mutation is the byproduct of radioactivity.
This work of radiation. The man in the suit doesn't fuse with the suit instantly. His body explodes in the suit, then it reshapes itself in the suit.
Now, if you know anything about Godzilla as a franchise, all this talk about radiation should be making your Geiger counters go off. See, when Godzilla was first created, he wasn't just some city-sized monster of the week for a horror movie. He represented something much darker than that. You have to remember that the first Godzilla movie was released all the way back in 1954, nearly 70 years ago. And while that might seem like ancient history to us millennials and zoomers, this was a particularly important moment for Japanese culture and history. Think about this time period. It was less than a decade after the end of World War II. And the
Hiroshima nuclear bomb, anybody?
deployment of the 2 atomic bombs that devastated the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This is where Godzilla comes from. A monster literally created from nuclear radiation from an atomic bomb test mutating a prehistoric lizard living under the Pacific Ocean. For the original audience of this film, the idea of a kaiju like Godzilla being an unintended consequence of nuclear waste would have been a very real, legitimate fear, considering that we had no idea what the long-term effects of this level of nuclear radiation were. But that's just the surface level reading of Godzilla. There's a deeper one here that not only has the King of Monsters standing in as a product of mutation, but as an allegory for the nuclear bombs themselves.
Tell me, MatPat, because I don't know what it is. That's why I'm coming to you.
The director of the original film put it, if Godzilla had just been some animal, it could have been killed with traditional weaponry. Sure, it would still be a threat, but not the true terror that we see present on screen. Godzilla is the atomic bomb. The destruction that he leaves behind is indiscriminate. He's an unstoppable force, devoid of morality, destroying anything and everything in his path, and leaving nothing behind but rubble. This is also why the powerful beam attack that Godzilla shoots out of his mouth is called his atomic breath, even sometimes being depicted as creating a mushroom cloud similar to a nuclear explosion. Godzilla is
I haven't showed a picture in a while, so let me show a picture of that then.
behind but rubble. This is also why the powerful beam attack that Godzilla shoots out of his mouth is called his atomic breath, even sometimes being depicted as creating a mushroom cloud similar
That's not a good image. If you want to see the images, go watch the video until I have a proper setup to actually have the video in one. I just wanted to get this out.
To a nuclear explosion. Godzilla is both metaphorically and literally a nuclear weapon. And
I should kind of do. I'll play that part one more time, and I'll show. Let me sit up close where I can be steady.
it's indiscriminate. He's an unstoppable force devoid of morality, destroying anything and everything in his path and leaving nothing behind but rubble. This is also why the powerful beam attack that Godzilla shoots out of his mouth is called his atomic breath, even sometimes being depicted as creating a mushroom cloud similar to a nuclear explosion. Godzilla is both metaphorically and literally a nuclear weapon. And this is what unknowingly the man in the suit is using as a jumping off point for their story. Don't believe me? The connection is further driven home during the video's suit trial, where we see Toho experimenting with Goji playing audio tracks to see how it reacts. During one such test, we hear Goji spewing some garbled mess in what appears to be English. At first, it's very difficult to make out, but if you listen closely, speeding up the audio track, you realize that Goji is actually reciting a
Here comes the theory part.
Physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer, the main architect of the American Atomic Program and the leader of the Manhattan Project.
I am become death. Despair rules.
This is a very real thing that Oppenheimer said years after the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, showing immense guilt for the unspeakable destruction that his scientific breakthroughs caused to not only the people of Japan, but potentially every human on the planet. Fun fact.
I did see the Oppenheimer movie. That's one of the last reviews I did on Cinematic Critic over on Facebook, so I want to check that out.
By the way, Oppenheimer actually said this quote in 1965, at least 4 to 5 years after this point in The Man in the Suit takes place. But hey, we've already established that it's an alternate universe, so who knows? Maybe things just happened in a different order at that timeline. Regardless, this is still an incredibly heavy and important historical quote, and given what we know about the history and symbolism of Godzilla as a franchise, there is clearly some level of deeper connection here. Thankfully, Unknowingly has left us plenty of breadcrumbs to follow. In classic analog horror fashion, there's more hidden in each of these uploads than just the videos themselves. For instance, if you take a peek down below the videos, you'll find some text in the description written in Japanese, and we can learn a lot from what's said down there. Like here, in the very first episode's description, it reads as follows. Godzilla may be a monster, but he seems different to me. He is rather God. I will be the meat of the beast. I will be the host of Godzilla. I will live in this beast, because he is the only one who can help us. There is no God, just me, Goji.
I will live in this beast because he is the only one who can help us. I'm not going to go into all the details, but as an anime watcher, I love it when a beast is helpful, but now I gotta wonder here, now I gotta bring up my one criticism so far. The only criticism I've got so far, and we're over halfway done with the video. So is he the one who can help us, or is he mindless? Or is he somewhere in between? I guess he could be somewhere in between. That's more of a nitpick.
Then see to tell that the man in the suit clearly sees himself as a separate entity to Godzilla, but he's willing to sacrifice his identity to give Godzilla form, to merge his flesh with the suit to become something new, to become Goji.
Oh, so maybe Godzilla is mindless, but this guy is trying to give Godzilla a brain and heart. MatPat, I think you just answered the question I asked.
What's the whole endgame here? Well, in the description of the Anguirus suit incident, if you translate the Japanese, you're treated to a conversation between two entities. At first, I thought this might be a conversation between the suit and the man inside of the suit, but given that this is on a video about Anguirus and how he was transformed by Goji, the two people in this back and forth have to be the Goji entity and the man inside of Anguirus, his first victim, the first person that was transformed by Goji's radioactive bite. The man inside Anguirus cries out in pain, calling for God to ease his suffering, but only Goji answers, telling Anguirus that he knows that he lost his family, and that Goji can make him whole again, that he can take revenge and kill kill those who wronged him. And if you're guessing that those who wronged us could be connected to the atomic bomb, well, you'd be right on the money. See, Anguirus isn't the only person who lost family during those tragedies. In the video titled Veiled Message, our American protagonist is sent a VHS tape presumably created by Goji himself. Not entirely sure how Goji was able to make a tape with his tiny little stubby arms, but hey, that's a mystery for another day. The tape explains that the man in the suit once lived in Hiroshima.
Maybe I can theorize about that. 5 more minutes. Less than 5 minutes left.
Happened to be on a business trip the day that the bomb detonated above the city, which in turn killed his wife and children. Goji blames all Americans for his incredible pain, knowing that they cheered when Japan surrendered. Now, he wants to take everything from the Americans in return. And suddenly, Goji's behavior in other parts of the series makes a lot more sense. This is why he became so hostile during the production of King Kong vs. Godzilla. It was a co-production with American producers and American characters. And at least in Unknowingly's universe, American crew. This enraged Goji, who saw the entire production as a betrayal of not only himself, but of Japan as a whole. As another quote hidden in the video description says, he sees everyone involved as filthy traitors, playing with him like a toy, forcing him to work with the people who killed his family. This anger is why the situation eventually boils over during the filming. The script called for King Kong to win, and that's what happens in the real world version of the movie. But here, the two tumble into the sea, only Goji emerges, having drowned the actor playing Kong, eliminating someone that he saw as a traitor. Now, all of this makes for a really compelling story, and I'm kind of amazed with how much detail and nuance is packed into what appears to be a simple series of slideshows. But what is the story trying to tell us on a thematic level? Why did it unknowingly make this in the first place? What?
This is going to be my last stop. Probably. Let's see. Based on everything he's told me so far, because that was a lot. What is they trying to tell me? I'd have to look more into this. Because is this a Japanese YouTuber? Is it an American YouTuber? I don't know who made this. Well, I know who made it, but I don't know like details. Like, I'd have to, if I was to theorize about it, honestly, I'd have to look much more into it.
It's clear that this is a tale of two parts, grief and vengeance. On the one hand, the man in the suit is clearly a tragic character. In one moment, he lost both his family and his country. That kind of grief...
Okay, so he is Japanese, yeah. Oh, not the creator, but he's, whoever the creator is, making a story about. Of course he's Japanese. He's the original man that in the Godzilla suit.
It's hard to heal, but it's easy to fester, becoming anger, frustration, hatred. That is the path forward that Goji pursues, embracing this symbol of the very thing that took his family from him, and directing it towards the people that he believes actually hurt him. But to what end? What will that actually do? If he manages to...
It has a picture of Godzilla with an American flag behind it. When he says the line, people he perceives that hurt him. I mean, they're not wrong. War, everyone gets hurt in war, so America definitely hurt the Japanese in World War II.
Was his goal to exact his vengeance? Will it bring his family back? No. It only creates more pain, more suffering, and not even on the people that Goji wants to see suffer. Think about the people that Goji has actually hurt in the series so far. He's bitten 2 actors in costumes and drowned a 3rd on set. But all of these people were themselves Japanese. In his effort to get revenge on the people that he believes hurt him, that killed his family, instead he's only succeeding in hurting the people that are trying to help, who themselves were already hurting. In post-war Japan, we actually see...
Yeah, this is definitely not Godzilla.
This bear out in the crime statistics. Right after the war, when anger against the Americans would have been at its highest, crime rates were among the highest in Japan's modern history. These sorts of crimes wouldn't have hurt the Americans, they're just hurting their fellow Japanese people. But the saddest part, this drive for revenge, to extract vengeance and pain on America for dropping those bombs at the end of the war, it's not something that unites Goji with the...
You know what? I'm going to play that again, because that's actually a cool set of images. Go back a little bit.
Revenge on the people that he believes hurt him, that killed his family. Instead, he's only succeeding in hurting the people that are trying to help, who themselves were already hurting. In post-war Japan, we actually see this bear out in the crime statistics. Right after the war, when anger against the Americans would have been at its highest, crime rates were among the highest in Japan's modern history. These sorts of crimes wouldn't have hurt the Americans, they're just hurting their fellow Japanese people. But the saddest part, this drive for revenge, to extract vengeance and pain on America for dropping those bombs at the end of the war, it's not something that unites Goji with the rest of his country. When he finally escapes Toho's studio and explores the outside world for...
Somewhere in the making of a new movie, the man in the suit somehow escaped.
First time in a decade, Goji is shocked to see how the rest of Japan has chosen to deal with the pain from the tragedy. Instead of a country preparing to strike back, he finds a country that's more or less at peace. As Goji says, quote, "This place, the outside air, the cars, the windows, the house, did they just move on? Will we forget?" That right there, it's a valid question. Will they just forget? Thankfully, this is a case where we do have an answer. We as a species cannot and should not forget the unstoppable destruction of nuclear weapons. Several years ago, I was fortunate enough to visit Japan. I took the opportunity to visit the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum. It was an eye-opening experience. It was sobering to see the full extent of what the bombs did to Japan. And it was moving, seeing and hearing the stories about what people went through as they tried to survive in its aftermath. But the biggest takeaway that I had of that entire trip was how the nation chose to remember that unspeakable tragedy. This wasn't a case of, look at these awful things that the Americans did. Instead, it was, look at the horrors of this power that we've unlocked.
Yeah, if you know me, I can't really hate the Japanese in the modern day, given the fact that one of my absolute favorite things of all time is anime. And many of that anime even oh no, that anime positively portrays Japanese, and in some cases, yes, it vilifies America or Christianity. I myself am a Catholic, so those kind of bother me, but that's neither here nor there.
And we cannot let this happen to any other nation or any other people ever again, no matter what. After World War II, Japan has famously never sought to make nuclear weapons. They've even gone so far as to adopt the 3 non-nuclear principles, promoting the peaceful use of nuclear energy and work towards global nuclear disarmament. Japan's chosen to take what many consider to be the darkest moment in human history, and they've dealt with that grief in a way that ultimately benefits us all, tries to protect us from our own power. Those crime rates that I mentioned a second ago, in the 50s they plummeted, and they remained low for decades. This led to a boom in Japan's economy, which in turn led to the creation of technology that ultimately benefited
Sony soundbar, Sony subwoofer. I'm willing to bet that a lot of these pieces in my gaming computer, well, actually, that controller on top is a Sony PlayStation controller. Nintendo's on there. Hitachi, believe it or not, I actually had. I know they don't make TVs anymore, at least not over here in the US, and I don't see them. Panasonic, Hitachi, Panasonic. I had a Hitachi, Panasonic TVs. Toshiba. I work for CVS. The registers we're actually replacing a lot of registers with Toshiba registers. Canon, my dad uses Canon. All these Japanese companies.
everyone. They didn't let the cycle of violence continue. They didn't just feed into the darkness and fuel the anger. They didn't become the monster, the man in the suit like Goji did. Now, we all as a society are better for that. The question now is, what does it take for all of us to step out of the suit? But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut.
All right. That is the first of MatPat's final theories. Again, if you didn't watch it, I already went into detail about. I already did a reaction to MatPat saying he'd be leaving YouTube. Any comments I should respond to during the video? To answer the one question why I have to keep stopping the video, it's because I am
fair use. I want to give my thoughts, and I want to make sure. If you want the video without my interruptions, you can of course go to the Film Theory channel and watch it now. I'll be thinking about this, and that's my reaction to MatPat's first final theory.